this, but I took a long time. Okay, so I think there's 8 sections to this exam, right? There's 8 sections to this exam. So if I were you, as a, I think Matt had question last week. Oh, okay, okay. If I were you, because he asked me, how do I study for this exam? And actually, I was just talking to a Tri-4 student and said, how did you do it? Good student. So he told me, obviously you have to stay every night study, right? Now it's past that point. You don't have time. You can go back 3 weeks back. What you do, you go through the notes, and if you say, okay, origin, skeletal coming soma, cardiac design, go through. If there are stuff that you don't understand, and have your PowerPoint there too, just make sure that you go and check this out. So there might be, there is a problem with the understanding, so you need to understand it. Because what happens, you memorize, and these are only dots. These are the summary notes. I mean, I couldn't understand my own notes when I read them, to be honest with you, because I need to open the textbook and make sense to it. Because we can do better than it. I try to change it here and there, but that's it. I mean, how can you add more to it? If if they give me I take away all the lecture notes and say, okay, study from the textbook. Because this is, I think, textbook is better than this little notes, Make me rely on this, then you say, okay, I study, but then it's only 2 pages, but 2 pages is the result, is the extract of 50 pages. It makes you confused. So, don't you agree? No, no chances, no. Of course you don't agree. Okay, so you are on the other side. But okay, so the muscle, I would ask you the origin, make sure that you know it. Make sure you study that. I have many questions. Yes.
Don't we start with neuron function, or is it?
Oh, okay. I do that too. I promise you. Since I studied, we must. Yeah, I do. Okay, let's do that. Mike gets me all the time. No, this is smart. I agree with you. And since I started, okay. This is important. You have to know about, let's see, do you think you need to know about action potential? Absolutely. Do you need to know about sodium, potassium, ATPase, PAM? Are they primary, secondary, active transport? Are they passive transport? You have to know that, okay? So is a sodium, potassium, ATPase, PAM, is it primary or active? Primary or secondary? Primary, okay. So secondary, we study only one. But there is another example with calcium is there too. Which one is secondary? When you bring sodium and sugar, right? Sodium, does it make sense? Okay, when I say active, do you understand what active means compared to passive? Okay, good, you understand, yes. Okay, active is when you use energy. Passive is when you don't use energy. Make sure you know that 3 sodium out, 2 potassium in. This is a must. I mean, you just have to memorize this forever and ever and ever. Okay? So, the different phases of action potential, yes, you have to know what ions cause, what channel for the ions causes that. You have depolarization, which one is hyperpolarization, what is repolarization, and all that. It's easy, right? So in order for depolarization happens, what channels have to be open? Voltage, right? Voltage gated sodium channel. That's depolarization. Immediately after you get to the depolarization, what channels open? After you get the high. After you get high in the potassium channels open. Does it make sense? So you have sodium, potassium, but potassium channels are lazy to close, so you go to a little, hyperpolarization, and then you go back. Does it make sense? So make sure you know that. So you have depolarization, you have repolarization, and then you have hyperpolarization. Okay? Yes. Peak, when it gets to the peak for the Sodium depolarization, it says it's plus 35 millivolts. That's called overshoot. You go look at, because if I want to go explain for you what is 35 volt is, what is this, 7, it's going to take, this is the equilibrium potential for sodium, okay? I just told you, when I went through it, which was a Monday morning, I didn't explain much about it. You should know the number, but just know the peak depolarization is, it stops at plus 35. That's all I need you to know, okay? What is repolarization? So I have asked questions about that. Electric synapses and chemical synapses. Which one are the most dominant? Which one is the least? Where do you find them? Chemical. Okay. What is electrical when you have gap junctions? Where do you see gap junctions? In the electrical synapse. I just said it. Okay. So it's so funny. Okay, like for example, here I haven't said which one is more dominant, right? But I might ask you, right?
You said chemicals more. Chemicals most dominant.
Chemical, because I told you before. I haven't asked you questions that I haven't told you, okay? So if you haven't been in the class, it's not my fault, okay? So I told, it's not in your notes, you don't find it, but it was in previous notes, but I might ask you this because it's important. Some of the questions I might ask you again is important. And I said it when I went through it. A neurotransmitter, make sure you know which one is excitatory, which one is inhibitory. What do I mean by excitatory? Depolarization. Inhibitory, when you go to, make the membrane harder to depolarize. What are cholinergic synapses means? Is
acetylcholine.
Acetylcholine release. Acetylcholine causes the acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that's released at the skeletal muscle, right? And also is an autonomic nervous system. You have cholinergic fibers that release acetylcholine. Vagus nerve release what? What does vagus nerve release? If you don't answer me, I'm gonna tell Dr. G. You didn't answer me. Vagus nerve, what does it release? 3, 7, 9, 10. Where are the cheerleaders?
I don't know. Highlighting stuff. What did you ask?
Nobody knows.
Is it norepinephrine?
Okay. What is 10? 3, 7, 9, and 10. Cheerleaders. It's a parasympathetic, right? So what does it release? Thank you. You're the man. Acetylcholine. Come on. What was that you didn't get it? Is it my accent?
No.
You're okay,
You're fine.
You should know 3, 7, 9, and 10. 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 Do it for yourself. 10 is what? Vagus nerve, right? So acetylcholine. Is it 75%? Remember this. He would ask you. 75% of your parasympathetic information is carried through the vagus nerve. Okay? Everything stays in Vegas, right? Right?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Oh my God, this is amazing. This is terrible. This is terrible. But be honest, I just told Vice President, I saw Vice President, I was working here. I mean, we have a stranger here, I can talk to you. There are 2 strangers there. But they're nice guys, I love them. Hey guys, good to see you. You know what they told me? He said this try has been the hardest working try. He told me. He said, I haven't seen other try once. This try, he said, I see them all the time at the library. Good job, guys. And that's what he told me. And I saw president, I just saw vice president, he's been to my house. I said, you know what, this try one we have, they're awesome. They're working hard. Okay? But I wouldn't tell him that you didn't know what you said. Okay, so if I ask you where the skeletal muscles are coming from, what do you tell me? So much. Okay, good. Know the structure of the skeletal muscle fiber back and forth, and please know it. And I spend a lot of time explaining for you myofibrosis. myofiber. Do not get confused between myofiber and myofibril. Myofiber is one muscle fiber. Make sure you know the covering, okay? Go from epimysium, perimysium, then endomysium, what you know. Make sure that you know, see, you know, the thing is, you know, I remember I was a student, I would memorize this, say, okay, fiber structure, long umbilical, and then multiple people with myoglobin. I memorized, and then when there was a question, I said, oh my God, what was that? Because I memorized it, you know? Because you didn't get it. You memorize it, you don't remember. So if I ask you, what is myoglobin? What is myoglobin?
Oxygen storing
Yeah.
pigment.
Oxygen carrying hemoglobin, basically. You know, is a hemoglobin, but we call it in the muscle, we call it myoglobin. It's so easy, but it's not what? Okay? So then you, so when we talk myofibrils, myofibrils, make sure you know the functional unit of myofibrils are basically the sarcomere. Make sure the sarcomere structure is what? Okay, you go from Z band to Z band, right? Or Z disc, the same thing. Make sure what happens during the contractions, okay? During the sliding filamentary, you know, sliding. Make sure you know the sarcomere structure, like what is the A band, what is the I band, what is the H band, what is the M band, okay? Triads, know the triads, know the function. Repair. Which one are the most repairable among a skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and a smooth muscle?
Smooth?
Smooth muscle. Smooth, read or not? You haven't read or not?
What was the question? Which is the most
Smooth muscle are the most. What are the cells that are responsible for repair at the skeletal muscle level? That's a good job. Thank you. Somebody's studying satellite cells. Satellite cells.
There you go.
Satellite cells. It's right under the skeletal muscle. Repair. Read the repair. I'm just going too fast. Make sure you can realize the differences in histology between the cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and skeletal muscle. Do the smooth muscle have sarcomeres? Yes or no? No. Good job. So go through it. A skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle. Which one is bigger? Which one is smaller? Which one is smaller? Cardiac. Good job. Excellent. Excellent.
Bigger?
Smaller. That's smaller. Make sure you know the circulatory system function, arteries, capillary veins. Do you understand how the branching goes? Because arteries, right? Arterial, capillaries, venules, veins, arteries. Does that make sense? But then remember, capillaries, venules. But remember, you also have medium, large, small veins and all that, okay? Make sure you can distinguish. I ask you for sure, this would be a question. How do you distinguish between an artery and vein? What is the common features between arteries and veins? Common features. Or what are the differences?
Does that artery have like the elastic layers in it, and the vein doesn't? Because there's like, on the PowerPoint, there's two different layers.
For example, if I ask you, tunica, which layer of arteries is the most prominent?
Medial.
Okay, which layer of the vein is most prominent? Yeah, external-adventitia, right? That's. If I ask you, where do you find vasovisceral? Where do you find it? In both. But in which layer? Tunica, intima, media, or adventitia? And also media. Okay, that I will get you. That would be a macro.
Macro.
That would be a good macro question I get you. Because it read your notes. In your notes it says you found it in clinical media. So you found in alternate. Which one you found more would be, which one you found more? In which one? Arteries or veins? Veins. Veins. Okay? Make sure you know the layer of the heart. You know you have endo, myo, epi. What is specific about endocardium? What is the important structure in the endocardium that we talk about? We talk about conduction velocity. What special cells are they? Purkinje. Where do you find them? In the endocardium. Okay? In the subendocardial layer. But these are all under the endocardium. Epicardium has fat. That's the difference. Fat tissue is there. Make sure that you know the SA node, AV node, the generation of the action potential, the contraction of the heart. So conduction of the heartbeats, how does it travel? Sinoatrial, you go to the AV node, you go to just read them. Blood vessel, vasovasorum, capillaries. Different types of capillaries. For example, if I ask you, what is the most dominant type of capillaries? Which one is it? Continuous. The one that does the most exchange would be, which one? Which one does the most exchange? Discontinuous, yeah. Why you say that? The most exchange, yes, but they're big pores, okay? The most exchange, it would be there. Where do you find it? That's a good question. Where do you find sinusoidal capillaries? We just
Liver.
Liver! What kind of capillary do I find in the brain if I give you multiple choice?
The continuous.
Continuous, yes. Okay? Make sure you know what the portal system is. What is a portal system? This is on your nose on circulation. Okay? Portal system. Okay? I'm sorry, I'm just looking through. I might very well. I have to take my Fifth Amendment. Is it called Fifth or Sixth Amendment? I what?
Plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth. I have to take my Fifth Amendment because I don't know what I'm saying here at this time. Just I'm tired. I just want to make sure you know the different type of the transfer under membrane transport. What is a diffusion? What is a facilitated? What is osmosis? And make sure you understand what is hydrostatic pressure, what is osmotic pressure, and how does the exchange happens across the membrane. Okay? You remember that we spent some time throughout the capillaries when you had this exchange happen. Which one changed? Which hydrostatic pressure change or osmotic pressure change? Hydrostatic, good job. Somebody answered very good. Good job. Yes, hydrostatic. The pressure of blood goes down. The osmotic pressure stays the same because the number of proteins stay inside the same. Because the proteins cannot cross the membrane. Okay? I don't know, maybe I'm talking to myself. What is the antiport? What is the symport? This should be very easy to step. The same way, yeah. Yeah. So if I ask you like sodium, potassium, ATPase, this is an antiport, right? If I ask you sodium, sugar, that would be simple because they come into. I hope you learn this stuff too. It's not just going through this part. Lymphoid system. Oh, I would ask for sure, what is the function of lymphoid system? Make sure you know what is the primary, what is the secondary nodule. Primary. How do you distinguish them histologically? Okay? What is secondary nodules? Are they active? Do you see germinal center there? That's a good macro question. Do you see reticular cells in the The same type of reticular cells as you see in other lymphatic tissue in the thymus. No. You see their own, they call it reticular epithelial cells of thymus. Okay, they don't make type 3 collagen fibers, right? Very important fibers, right? It is become smaller as we grow older. Up to puberty it grows. After the puberty it starts going down. So if I ask you where is the T cell, where they're produced, where do you tell me? No. Originally, all of them are coming from bone marrow. All. If I ask you B cell, T cell, red blood cell, these are all coming from the bone marrow. Okay? T cells, in order to be mature, that become, they don't kill themselves, so they need to be mature. So what they do, they go to the thymus. Okay? Which one has a longer life cycle? Is it B cell or a T cell? T cell, good job. T cell, they can live up to 20 years. Okay, so good point. Make sure you know the difference between B cell and T cell. B cell are humoral immunity, right? Plasma cells. T cells are cell mediated. Pious patches in the exam. You're surprised. Somehow teachers love pious patches. Where do you find pious patches? See, appendix has a lot of nodules going on.
Are you gonna spell that ILIUM?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna do that so get you confused, yeah. But Dr. G teaches, so I am, so remember, that might haunt you again in final. Don't think it's done. He would ask you again. Right? Remember, a student, they would tell me, make sure you know the Z joint. He would ask you again and again. He would ask you again, Z joint, So malt, the tonsils. Okay, the difference when you study the spleen, what do you find in the white hole? What do you find in the red hole? What do you find in the sinusoids? Okay, I'm not gonna study that, but when you study it, understand it, but I'm not gonna go so much detail into the structure of the spleen. Okay, know the difference between right pulse, left pulse. Make sure you know where you find codes of Billy Roth. You see them, red pulp and sinusoid. Make sure you know what pals are. Pals. I had a student on the exam say, Doctor, could you tell us what is pals? I can't tell you what is pals on the exam. That's an exam in itself, Pals. Now some of you say, what is pals? Pals are pre-arterial lymphatic, and these are only T cells, right? Does the lymphoid nodules, does the T cells make lymphoid nodules? No. So immune function, make sure you know what is the antigen. What is the epitope? I ask questions about IgE, IgM, IgA, IgG, IgB. Make sure you know those. The differences are where we find IgG is the differences against bacterial virus toxins. IgE is for allergy attack, right? So things like that. IgA, you find it in the saliva, in the secretion, in the tears, you find it. Good job. MSC1, MSC2, I would ask MSC1, MSC2, you should know that. You should know that CD4 cells are T helper cells, CD8 are cytotoxic, okay? What is diaphoresis? What is margination? These are all good questions. And digestive system, I just had it today, I'm not going to go through it. Any questions? You guys are good? Good to go?
Yeah.
You are planning. So, I changed the date of the exam that you really, really do good, right?
Yes.
I did it this morning. What else can I say? No, I didn't do it. Mike, I never can make you happy.
You went through the top whole thing, you highlight the area.
Do you have any questions on this? Because no, everything, okay, let's do it. This is for Mike. Mike, now you tell me. Where do you find some mucosal glands in the digestive tube? Two places. I told you this morning, I asked you, right? What are the two places? Esophagus and duodenum. What is another name for submucosal gland in the duodenum? Brunner's glands. Okay, so I asked you this. What are plicocephalus? These are found in the small intestine. Do you find in all regions? Yes, yes. When do you find Peyer's patches? What do you find in saliva? Saliva is a non-specific or a specific or both? Both. See? You knew. Okay, what kind of epithelial tissue covers the lining of the digestive tube? Most dominant type. Simple columnar. Where do you see a stratified squamous? On the esophagus has a stratified squamous. And you have it also at the rectoanal junction, right? When it changes. Muscularis externa is made of what layers? Where do you find myenteric plexus? What is another name for myenteric plexus? Oh, you don't know, yeah, Arvas. Where do you find submucosal plexus? That's true. Where is submucosal plexus? Where do you find it? Submucosal plexus. Where do you find it?
Under the
In
mucosa.
the submucosal. Right? What do they do? What does submucosal do? Controls the glands, right? Because these are parasympathetic, this belongs to enteric nervous system, which is parasympathetic, and basically what it does, it controls the secretion of the glands. Okay? What is another name for submucosal plexus? Meissner. Meissner. Don't get Meissner with the one in the skin, don't get confused. Okay, thanks for asking. These are actually important questions. Rotae, you find in mucosa. Parietal cell, intrinsic, I told you I would ask you. Right? Parietal cell secrete and how about chief cell? And what did chief cell also produce? Gastric lipase, right? If I say gastric lipase, you understand. People get gastric ulcer. Gastric all the time refers to the stomach. Okay? Gastric ulcer means the stomach ulcer. If they are just specifically talking about the small intestine, they call it duodenal ulcer. Now, hopefully, after today, you have a different outlook on the duodenal ulcer, and you see how people get duodenal ulcer. Because when people are under stress, a lot of them are under sympathetic life stresses. That causes this. Prevents basically secretion of all these juices, because sympathetic is anti-digestion. Does it make sense? So you start losing that lining and on the small. So it's really, you can relate it to the clinic aspect of it. It's very interesting. Okay, people, the children especially, I see it in my own son, because they do games and they do all these computers and they get stressed out. And they go through sympathetic mode and they're constipated. Why they're constipated? Why you get constipated when you're stressed out? Because parasympathetic is the one that's resting and digestion. Does it make sense? That's why a lot of older people that are stressed out, they're constipated. Okay, good job guys. I'm proud of you. That's the whole thing. I hope